So let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Rishi and I'm the co-founder and head of growth at Agriperar. So Agriperar is a tech-driven agriculture company with a focus on soilless and sustainable farming practices. And folks, today we're going to talk about profits and sustainability in the context of Indian agriculture. I hope you all can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. So just want to get started with giving you a slight context of India's agriculture landscape. Approximately 60% livelihood in India is still earned through agriculture, which contributes to around 15 to 18% of our country's GDP. Our agriculture exports are north of $50 billion. It's $51 billion in 2023, which makes us the eighth largest agriculture export country in the world. If you look at area wise, we are the second largest area under agriculture, and we are the number one producer of spices and legumes. So where am I getting with this? We are a large scale agriculture society, and most of us, or a lot of us, who have grown up in 80s and 90s, and who have seen India, um, booming in other sectors like IT services, hospitality. We need to take a step back and see our historical context. We have been a large scale agriculture society, and we still are a very large scale agriculture society. Um, this is a very famous quote by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who is also known as the father of Green Revolution. He says that if agriculture goes wrong, nothing else will have a chance to go right in the country. Um, So, as you know, India is the most populous country in the world, and we are in the age of industrial farming. We do have a lot of mouths to feed. We do have this increasing population for which we need to meet the demand. So, in this current industrial age of farming, unfortunately, we are facing with three huge crises. The first one is we are focusing only on scale. So some data here, for example, 60,000 metric tons of pesticide is used annually, which makes us the world's largest users of harmful chemicals in our food. Soil degradation is another one. More than 30% of agricultural land is degraded because of abuse with chemicals and monoculture. At the same time, more than 80% of India's fresh water is consumed in our rudimentary and conventional way of doing agriculture. So we are facing a massive freshwater scarcity. Um, this is another way of saying that, you know, this we are not balancing our scalability and profitability with sustainability. So let me repeat that. With meeting with attempting to meet the increasing demand of Indian population, we are putting more focus on making sure that the agriculture is scalable and profitable rather than ensuring that the agriculture is sustainable. Now, what is sustainable agriculture and why must we care? So, the pillars of sustainable agriculture contains essentially these four things. A, environmental health, that includes your soil, water, biodiversity. B, your economic viability. There have to be fair returns for the person growing the crops, and the crops or the food that is being produced has to be very cost effective for people consuming it. At the same time, there has to be an element of social equity where people who are growing crops, people who are consuming the food, fruits, vegetables, grains, spices, there has to be a certain quality of life, right? Um, at the same time, there has to be a very healthy community engagement. Farmers are the building block of Indian agriculture, as we all know, and Indian agriculture is the mainstay of our economy till this point. So we have to make sure that our farmers or whoever has decided to grow crops, they are engaged in a very healthy manner across the spectrum of the society. And last but not the least, the food security. We have to ensure that the food that we are producing is available to everyone and it is available at a high quality. There's a lot of data suggests that the kind of quality, the kind of food that we are producing right now is not of high quality. It lacks nutrition. It's ridden with pesticides, which is really unfortunate. So the key takeaway here is we need to balance sustainability with profitability and scalability. And when we talk about sustainability, we have to talk about environmental health. We have to talk about economic viability. We must talk about social equity, and we must talk about food security. Now, friends, this is since as you know, we are not balancing our sustainability with scalability and profitability. So we are skewing more towards making sure that the food that we are growing is scalable, but we are not conscious about how we are growing it. And there are a number of research papers out there, and there's a lot of news out there that sort of suggests the same. In one very unfortunate event last year, it was found that the pesticide in mother's breast milk was responsible for death of over 100 newborns in UP district. This is really unfortunate. At the same time, there's a direct correlation. There's a direct correlation between the pesticide that we find in our food and the food and the increase in cancer rates. Throughout the country, if you look at the data, there's a staggering 50% year over year increase in the cancer cases. And somewhere there's a direct tie between the food that we consume, the chemicals that are sprayed on the food, and the rising cancer rates in India. So, friends, there are essentially three things: the food that we eat, the air that we breathe, and the water that we drink. At individual level, we can do only so much about the air that we breathe in. About the water, we all have RO systems at homes. We make sure we drink filter water. But what about food? So, friends, this is the right time to be very conscious about what we are consuming, whatever we are consuming, how it is being produced, what chemicals are sprayed on it, and what can we do about it to get rid of those chemicals or to avoid the harmful effects or to totally avoid the chemicals that are that are being sprayed upon these food products. So basically, what I want to present to you right now is just these three things. Look at the food that comes to our kitchen. Look in your family and friends around to observe the number of diseases that each one is facing. Diabetes and cancer. I can bet that you'll find these diseases touching almost each and every family member, each and every family of ours, right? At least one member of our family. So somebody in our family is unfortunately is facing with either diabetes or cancer, and there's a direct correlation between the food that we're eating and these ailments. Another study, or well, there are many studies that have given consistently that 70% of samples found were 70% of the food sample across the spectrum of the food that we consume were found to be highly contaminated with pesticides and other chemicals. Unfortunately, the state is such that we can't wash away these chemicals easily. We can't just wash them, we can't boil them. These are there right from the point when the seeds are put in the ground to the point that they become a crop. We rid our crops, we rid our food with a lot of chemicals, insecticide, pesticides, genetically modified seeds, and we cannot, they have entered our food chain, they have entered our body, they have started affecting us at genetic level. So we can't do much about that. Another one is, it's just not a matter of a few vegetables or a few fruits. Unfortunately, the issue is across the board. This includes your fruits, vegetables, saffron, cereals, pulses, dairy, honey, spices, what and whatnot. So my goal today is not to paint a gloomy picture, not to scare you, but to sort of make you aware of the current state where we are at. And I think we need to be very conscious about the food, how it is grown, how we are consuming it, and our surroundings. So, what is the solution, you may ask? So, with the advent of technology, we currently have techniques where we can successfully grow food with no chemicals at scale with least number of resources, right? That brings me to a tech-driven soilless farming dimension or technique. So if you look at techniques such as hydroponics, aeroponics, or aquaponics, these are the techniques that are totally tech-driven and are 100% soilless in nature. Now, why we do this? So if you look at the chemical profile that we spray on our food, so most of the chemicals we use to make the soil that we have eroded, unfortunately, to make the soil more fertile. What if we just totally get rid of the soil? What if we start growing food without the use of soil and just treat the roots, just give the roots the type of nutrition and the right amount of nutrition that they need, right? So that is a technique that we're talking about here, called hydroponics, where we grow the food inside the water without use of soil. Aeroponics is another such technique where we spray the mist or water on top of food product without putting the produce underground or using any sort of soil. Aquaponics is another such technique where we sort of create a very healthy culture. We create a really healthy ecosystem between the food that we are growing and your fish culture, which is your aquaculture, right? So think of it as ecosystem or a cycle where the food that you're producing is feeding the livestock or the fish that you have a fish farm, and the waste product from the fish farm goes back to the as a feed to the food. So it's a really healthy ecosystem that we have. So my point here is we have these techniques using which we can experience 90% less water, 600% more yield, and 0% nasty chemicals. So if you ask me, the technique is out there, technology is out there where we can beat the use of chemicals. We can totally avoid the use of soil, and we can experience food with zero nasty chemicals. Uh, Now the question is, what can you do, right, about this? Not everybody is a farmer, and that is something that I want to emphasize here. So what can you do to, solve for this, or make sure that whatever you're consuming and your families are consuming is of healthy nature? Number one, you can get educated on the intricacies and be conscious in what you eat, and I'm pretty sure you all are already doing it. The second is buy from reliable sources as much as you can. And and this is not a revelation that how much you should be trusting large brands. Um, be conscious about the source from where your food is coming from. The third one, which I want to emphasize a bit more, is start growing it yourself. Let me repeat that. So start growing your own food. Start growing it yourself. Um, it's not rocket science. So, and again, as I mentioned, historically or conventionally, when we think about food, when we think about farming, we think about, hey, we must have an area of land, you must have soil, you must have understanding of right fertilizers, you must have understanding of right seed, and then you can grow your own food. But with the techniques that I was just mentioning, which includes hydroponics, aeroponics, and aquaponics, you don't need any of that. All you need is a little bit of space, maybe a 10 by 10 room, maybe your flat's balcony, maybe your house's backyard. And you can set up a plant, you can set up a system in which you can start growing your own food, right? Using technology, using water, soilless. And we're here to help you with that. And we'll get to that. Now, how to do it, right? So there's a method to this madness. So get trained, get help and support, experiment with multiple crops, multiple techniques, and see where you are at with your comfort level. How much are you ready to spend? How much you're ready to invest in it, both in terms of time and resources. Um, start growing your own food. There are a lot of low hanging fruits. Basically, for example, green leafy vegetables or tomatoes, which are really easy to grow in your own space using the techniques that I mentioned. And once you're comfortable with growing your own food and you've done the experimentation, then think about scale and then think about how you can get into this market of making actual money growing your own food. Now, um, let me quickly talk about the hydroponics market and the context that we are operating in terms of hydroponics market in today's world. Um, so the current market size, if you see world versus India, um, it's roughly 12 billion, right? India has a market of 150 million in hydroponic, and we are projecting a staggering growth of 17.6% in India. What does that mean? Your money getting doubled in 3 to 4 years, every 3 to 4 years. If you are into this field, if you are growing your own food, right? Um, so while the global market is larger and more technologically advanced, the Indian market is growing at a faster rate, essentially driven by urbanization, technology adoption, and the need for sustainable agriculture practices. This is no secret that, and everybody knows this is common sense that we need sustainable practices. And the techniques that I'm talking about, these are 100% sustainable, that you can do it in your own home, safeguard your health, safeguard your family, and at the same time, if you look at from the economic standpoint, you can easily become the part of this growing or this booming economy, and you can literally make a lot of money out of it and escape this rat race of, hey, I have to follow unhealthy practices, I have to follow unhealthy routine in order for me to make money. Imagine a profession where you get up and then you're amongst your plants, you you go to your farm, you pluck a vegetable, cook it for your family. At the same time, you're ensuring that the food that you're producing is going to somebody else who's paying you for that. It's really clean and it's really profitable, if you ask me. Giving you a bit more context on this, how the market is growing, and from the trends point of view, um, our Asia Pacific market has the lion's share. So if you look at throughout the world, so approximately 35% of hydroponic market is in the Asia Pacific region. And there is a reason for that. A, this region is the most populated region in the world. B, this is the region, specifically India, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, where you needed these practices yesterday, right? We are at a stage where we have to make a really tough choice of treating our crops with harmful chemicals in order to meet our food demand. This is not the need of the future. This was a need 10 years ago, right? But thankfully, we do have these techniques where we can now start growing our crops ourselves, right? So and market is suggesting the same thing. Um, if you do more research into this, you'll find out that there are a lot of companies, there are a lot of startups in India that are trying to get into the space. We are one such startup where we bring technology, we bring sustainable practices, and we bring ethical and transparent practices into the way we grow the food. And that's the ecosystem that we love to see growing. And that's why we are talking. That's why I'm talking to you today. My request to you is take a look into this and see what you can do on your part, not just out of sheer benevolence, not just out of sheer nobility, but also from an economic point of view, that you too can make money out of it while following this healthy trend. Um, so before I wrap up this discussion, I just wanted to put forth another quote by Dr. M.S. Swaminathan that he famously said that the aim of agriculture is not only to grow crops, but to create a sustainable livelihood for farmers and to promote harmony with nature. Let me repeat. The aim of agriculture is not only to grow crops, but to create a sustainable livelihood for farmers and to promote harmony with nature. And see what we're doing today. So, are we creating a sustainable livelihood for our farmers? And are we doing this in a sustainable way? You got the answer. Putting it another way, if capitalism is the problem, then capitalism is the solution. What we're facing today so far in agriculture or in the dire states that we are in is crony capitalism, where there are only a few who are profiteering by literally selling poison to the society. We have got to replace that with conscious capitalism. This is the time where each of us can become an agri entrepreneur and grow our own food in a clean way, sell that food to people with or without money at nominal rates. And the good part is all this is profitable for whoever who's doing this, given that they're doing it using the right technique. Uh, so yeah, so this is where we can basically help you. I mean, we at Agriperar, we have been doing this. We are growing our own spices. We are growing our own vegetables. We do this 100% using 100% without soil. We use this using technology. And being an engineer, I mean, all our founders are from technology background. Being from technology background gives us an advantage of pushing the envelope a little bit more when it comes to how can we use technology in a better way to grow great crops. One of our North Star vision is to enable each and every one of you to own your own farm and operate that farm from your mobile phone using technologies like AI, using technologies like IoT. So just wanted to share a few pictures of our farm that we have so far, and we do self produce, we conduct trainings, and we do a lot of consulting when it comes to how to grow your own sustainable crops. Um, Another thing I want to talk about is like, technology is a great enabler. So what you see on the left side of your screen is the picture of a traditional conventional farmer. All farmers don't need to look like this. The person on your right side is also a farmer. Now you have to make a choice whom do you relate more to. But the key point here is that you don't need to be a certain way, you don't need to look a certain way, and you don't need to behave a certain way to become a farmer. So it's a high time to start growing your own food. With that, I want to open the floor to Q&A. So let me see what questions do we have in the room. Looks like there are a few questions or comments. Okay, there is a question. There is a question. How can we test the contamination, adulteration in groceries, regular food items? And how can Agriperar be helpful in the is this covered during the training? Yeah, great question. So the question is, how can we test the contamination slash adulteration in groceries, regular food items? That's a great question. So I would say it's safe to assume that whatever we are buying today is touched by some amount of adulteration and some amount of contamination. There are ways to test it. There are a lot of resources that are available on the internet. But what we have done at Agriperar is we have sort of collected the resources where that you can easily use some tools and some home tests that you can use to sort of figure out what food material, how it is adulterated, and how to test for it. At the same time, I just want to mention that using technology, we are coming up with a lot of tech-based solution where you can um, you know maybe scan your food and figure out it's adulterated or not. So these are the use cases that we are actively working on, and that's our mission, to sort of educate masses on, see what you're eating, what chemicals are going inside you, and providing them the means and the way to test it. So to answer this question, check out our resources on our website. I'll also share it over the email after this discussion. So you can check it. Agriperar can be helpful to do this. And the trainings that I mentioned earlier, and absolutely yes. So the trainings, we have two trainings. One is growing saffron indoors. The other one is hydroponics. In both the trainings, we sort of guide you through, what are the tools and techniques that you can use to figure out A, whatever is out there in the market is adulterated or not, and B, when you grow your own food, how you go through the certification process, how you go through the process of establishing the purity of your own produce. That's one. Other than this, okay, so other question is, how does this scale in terms of single family? How big of a system do we need to set up? So when we talk about hydroponic system, or specifically, so it can be from anywhere between your 2 foot, 2 feet by 4 feet to 50 feet by 60 feet. What I'm trying to get at is, space is not a concern for it. It really depends on how much you want to grow. If you have a balcony, if you have an empty room, you can 8 by 8 room, or a 5 by 6 balcony. You can easily turn that into your garden. You don't have to deal with soil. All you need is a hydroponic setup that we can help you get, a water supply, and electrical fitments, right? All you need is this and an internet connection, and we can help you sort of establish this farm. So you don't need a lot of space. You just need maybe a balcony in your home, rooftop, your backyard, your front yard, an empty room, somewhere near the puja room, a lobby. So space is really not a concern in this one. For a single family, whatever you grow in balcony should be good enough. Another one is there any way to utilize existing land, soil along with this tech and get away with the adulteration? I have 10 acres farm, want to leverage. Yes, Pratik. So the answer is yes, and we'd be very happy to chat with you to sort of get into the details of what exactly your requirements are. But at a high level, yeah, I mean, if you look at techniques such as aeroponics, specifically when it comes to growing saffron. So we are doing it in two ways. Number one, we are doing it completely soilless. And two, we are also experimenting with soil. I know this is counterintuitive to what I just mentioned. But the benefit of doing it with soil is we want to A, benchmark how much it is performing, and B, when it comes to spices like saffron, the raw material of saffron, the bulbs or the crowns that we have, we can replicate or multiply them in the soil itself. So we are doing a lot of R&D in that manner. And um, as far as um, as far as growing things in soil, there's a lot of technology that is involved with soil as well. For example, uh, how do you monitor the right amount of nutrients that you are providing it to your your vegetables or your produce, right? So there's a lot of industrial automation sort of solutions that we can help you find, and we can help you sort of implement in your farms, that you can apply. But at the same time, I would like to invite you to sort of work with us, reach out to us in discussing the very specific needs that you have. Okay. Another question is, does Agriparivar provide seeds, equipment required for hydroponics, aquaponics? The answer is yes. We help you find the raw material when it comes to the seeds or the saplings. We help you with that. Not only with providing the seeds and the raw material, we also help you at every stage and every step of the supply chain, if you will. Right from where you source your raw material to how you then go ahead and sell your material, go ahead and sell your produce to the consumer without going through the middle layer. You know, um, sort of win-win situation. Okay. Another question in the room is: are there any prerequisites to get trained on hydroponics and aeroponics? The only prerequisite is we want you to be interested in this, and that's it. Your willingness to grow this, to learn this technique, and that is it. All that you need is just that, and we'll take care of the rest of it. Um, with that, just want to say that we do have our trainings which are live today. So go to our website or follow us on any of the social media channel to learn more about what we have to offer, the trainings that we are providing, and what other folks are talking about us. You know, so we believe in agriculture which is pure, which is transparent, and which is ethical. We want to fight, and we are fighting the good fight, and the good fight about growing crops ethically and creating a sustainable agriculture environment, and making hundreds and thousands of agripreneurs out of normal people like everyone in this room. So that's our vision. I think with that, uh, there are no other questions. So if there are no other questions in the room, so I think that's a wrap. Again, I'd like to thank you all on behalf of Agriperar. Thank you very much for joining today's discussion. I'm joined by my co-host Munish. Munish, do you want to say a few words before we wrap up?
No, again, thank you everybody for joining. It was a good presentation. If anybody has more questions, they can always reach out to us at agriparivar.com with different ways. We are available on WhatsApp. We are available on different social media handles. So, and we look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Munish, and thank you all. Have a great rest of your day and grow your own crops. Bye.